On May 29, 2025, a blunt shareholder letter revealed that Trump's new auto tariffs will cost GM up to $5 billion this year. What followed wasn't a single shutdown, but a chain reaction: shift cuts, temporary layoffs, and supplier closures, stretching from Detroit to Ontario. Wall Street slashed forecasts as workers feared for their livelihoods. Now the question looms: how long can the line stay quiet before it snaps? Economists warned that as many as 50,000 jobs could be in jeopardy. Tariffs were sold as a precision tool to boost American factories and bring jobs back, but reality is harsh. When the White House slapped a 25% tariff on all imported vehicles and components in April 2025, GM's finance team sounded alarms. CEO Mary Barra warned shareholders this would wipe out $4 to $5 billion from 2025 earnings, draining Ultium battery research and development funds. So, there was this slight tweak in late April that capped stacked duties and, offered a tiny offset, just 3%, if assembly happened in the United States. Still, most GM models relied on 40% imported parts. That meant almost every Silverado, Equinox, and Escalade took a direct hit. When you add in the existing steel and aluminum tariffs, each truck ended up carrying a $3,200 surcharge. Suppliers, well, they felt the pinch first. For example, a steering knuckle jumped from $28 to $36, and price hikes rippled across 30,000 parts. GM tried to absorb the blow, but Wall Street forced mid-year price increases. But it wasn't just parts costs climbing. Let's take a look at how these pressures trickled down to the factory floors where production actually stopped. Now, the headlines about GM shutting down nationwide, they kind of oversimplify the reality. But honestly, the silence in the plants was just as jarring. Trouble began on April 11th in Detroit, when Factory Zero paused and 200 workers were sent home, officially due to slowing demand. Though folks on the floor murmured about tariff-driven costs, by late April, the Ingersoll Cami plant halted bright drop van output until October, and 1,200 workers were laid off on May 2nd. So Oshawa, as the truck line cut its overnight shift, ended up wiping out 700 jobs. Ads for temporary work just vanished, and empty trailers sat idle in lots. Suppliers like Adient closed 2 Tennessee plants, slashing 400 union jobs. Executives called this elastic idling, a pause until parts flow resumes, but each idle week eats into margins and local economies start to bleed. Michigan diners lost 40% of customers overnight, and an Indiana shop warned of losing half its staff. Wall Street definitely took notice, cutting 18% off GM's outlook. Before we dive into what this means for the future of EVs, make sure you smash that like and subscribe button to stay tuned. It really helps us bring you even more updates from the fast lane. Now let's steer into how the EV promise collided with these tariff headwinds. America's EV bet meets a cold consumer. For 2 years, GM was the electric revolution's tip of the spear, but then, 3 dominoes fell. The $7,500 federal EV tax credit was repealed. Congress froze funding for national chargers, and battery minerals were hit with tariffs, ironically, inflating Ultium costs. Factory Zero, once bustling, is now packed with unsold Silverado EVs gathering dust under plastic. Internal data shows EV interest sliding from 14% to 7% after incentives disappeared. Even 0% financing couldn't overcome rising insurance and electricity rates. CFO Paul Jacobson admits GM needs to sell 100,000 Ultium trucks yearly just to break even. But 2025 forecasts say only 65,000 will sell. Each unsold EV ties up $45,000 while batteries degrade in storage heat. Consumers see rising prices and failing chargers. Some return to gasoline trucks. Others sit out completely as GM throttles production and hopes for cheaper batteries. The big question looms: was this EV dream overestimated or simply tariff-choked? The story doesn't end with EVs alone. Next, let's look at how this turmoil has divided workers and unions. Workers, unions, and the politics of nationalism. Detroit shop floors, once split by badge pride, now clash over how tariffs hit real paychecks. UAW President Sean Fine calls Trump's tariffs finally putting American jobs first, while Unifor, as a lot of pain, slams GM for trading Canadian jobs for political points in Tennessee. Some workers who once backed tariffs now mutter, "Cut the damn tariffs." Mortgage bills blur the old battle lines. Unions feel the squeeze: support tariffs and you hurt colleagues abroad, oppose them and risk being labeled unpatriotic. The friction plays into corporate cost-cutting. Divided workers rarely unite. Hourly workers face elastic idling. Subway covers 75% of wages, but overtime vanishes and every idle day feels like déjà vu of Lordstown's 2019 closure. Toolboxes stay packed by the door. Political theater adds insult. Trump shrugs off GM's plight, saying they made their choices. No real help, just a hint to adapt or sink. Now unions are forced to rethink strategies beyond slogans. Beyond Detroit, the ripple effects of these tariffs have reached global shores. Let's see how it's playing out for other auto giants. The ripple effects are huge. Think Stellantis, Volvo, Hyundai, and GM Korea. GM's tariff troubles ripple far beyond its badge. Over at Stellantis Windsor, the last minivan plant in Canada is on a roller coaster schedule for 12 weeks, which is, causing 900 layoffs in Indiana and Michigan. In the Midwest, dealer lots are just overflowing with unsold Pacificas, yet prices still keep climbing, thanks to those tariff-inflated Chinese parts. Meanwhile, Volvo Group North America is bracing for temporary layoffs of 1,000 workers in Pennsylvania and Virginia, as fleet buyers just balk at rigs now costing $180,000, up from $165,000 overseas. GM Korea, which sends 88% of its output to the US, is fearing collapse under 25% tariffs. Echoing GM's 2017 Australian exit, Hyundai and Kia rushed to expand Alabama and Georgia output. But the new jobs? They won't arrive until 2027. Even supply chains are feeling the strain. A Mexican piston can cross the border 3 times, and each crossing now carries a fee risk. One Ontario supplier lost $1.2 million in a single week over a customs error. Globally, talk of a new retrenchment era is definitely growing. So with ripples felt everywhere, what's GM's plan to restart those lines? Can the line restart, and when? Inside GM's Ringsend HQ, planners are sketching out 3 futures. The best? By late June, Brazilian wiring looms and Mexican engines roll back in. Silverado output recovers in Fort Wayne and Oshawa, and Detroit's EV lines hold steady, matching a cautious forecast of 65,000 Ultium trucks. Margins stay razor thin, but hey, they're positive. The middle path is a bit murkier. July brings new tariffs on Japanese and Korean electronics, which pushes infotainment module costs sky high. Plant utilization dips. Washington gridlock stalls any relief, and whispers of credit downgrades get louder. The worst case, China cuts rare earth supply, parts vanish, and Ultium production halts completely. I see trucks buckle and plants in the US and Canada go dark indefinitely. GM's debt outlook sours and morale just plummets. 3 levers decided it all: policy, demand, and supply chain resilience. GM's belt-tightening might save billions, but it's honestly just a drop in the bucket next to a $5 billion tariff cap. So, verdict, strategy or self-inflicted stall? Tariffs were sold as a shortcut to bringing jobs home. Instead, they've left GM's plants idled and thousands of lives hanging in uncertainty. If demand and policy shift, the lines can roar back. But if tariffs and credit tightness persist, the silence could last for years. So, what do you think? Are these tariffs helping or hurting American jobs? Will GM's electric plans survive? What would you do if you were in the driver's seat? Drop your thoughts below. We really love to hear from you, and if you want to stay on top of every twist and turn in the auto world, don't forget to subscribe to